Hey everyone, so unbelievably here we are approaching the end of the first quarter of 2022 already, and what an absolute nightmare it's been so far. Anyway, I thought I'd share some of my thoughts about my portfolio as we stand at the moment and some of the coins and tokens that I'm holding. So let's start with Btc and Eth, which have both had eyes on them given everything that's been happening geopolitically recently. Now, I'm going to be holding on to these guys for the foreseeable future. Both of them speak for themselves. And I think even though we've seen a kind of waning interest in NFTs in general, and also a kind of more interest in NFTs minted on other chains, I think all this whispering about kind of ETH killers and all that sort of stuff is all generally kind of moot. I think the idea of a smart contract network flipping ETH anytime soon is pretty fanciful, really. And just a little stat for you, 54% of DeFi TVL is on Ethereum, which is over $100 billion. And we've also got things like ZK rollups and ETH2 on the horizon as well. So yeah, for those reasons, ETH and BTC are going to be sticking around in my portfolio for quite some time yet. Okay, so let's talk about Solana. It's no secret that Sol has been down in the dumps, and there really hasn't been much price excitement on it since it pumped in sort of August to late November last year. And indeed, there have been these network issues. And there's still, having said that, a lot about Solana that I like. It's still attracting top talent, and you can see that in this article from CryptoSlate. And there's the excitement around the gaming dApps boosting the ecosystem too, and that you can see in this Cointelegraph article. And also, I should point out that Solana is also working with Circle on Solana Pay, so I'll be really excited to see that. So ultimately, Solana is still technically the fastest network by TPS, and it could really go either way price-wise, but the price slump doesn't mean the death of Sol by any margin. Now, I wanted to talk about Phantom because that's been in the news a lot recently, and that was obviously down to the fact that Andre Cronje, aka the DeFi godfather, who was an advisor to Phantom, and he's also the founder of Yearn Finance, he announced that he is leaving the DeFi space for good. Now, I should point out that Andre does kind of have form on this one, but there is something about this time that seems a little different. And a colleague of his said that this wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. Plus, Andre has also shut down all of his social media too, which isn't a great sign. Now, I bring this all up because Andre's apparent retirement it's prompted a price slump amongst a number of the associated projects, the ones that he was working on or associated with, so the likes of Keeper, Yearn, and obviously Phantom as well. Now, we also had Michael Kong, who's the Phantom CEO. He responded saying that these projects aren't, development isn't stopping on them, and actually some of them have been running without Andre's input for years now. So I think if we consider it on that basis, it seems that the price fall amongst these Andre associated projects is much more driven by sentiment rather than any functionality. And so for that reason alone, that's why I'm still holding my Phantom, even though it would be great if Andre could come back. Now, you might have also noticed that the only stablecoin in my portfolio is Terra's UST, and that I also hold some Luna as well. Now, there have been concerns around traditional stablecoin reserves, the reserves backing them, and regulatory issues aside, naming no names, Tether, but UST has become particularly interesting in recent times. And you may have noticed that Terra's Luna has been pumping at what has been a difficult time really for pretty much every other altcoin. And this has been partly spurred on by the news that we had of the $1 billion Bitcoin reserve being established to help in maintaining UST's peg to the dollar. Now, Luna has also surged as a result and is becoming an increasingly exciting project. And it recently flipped Ethereum for staked value and is now second only to Sol in that regard. And I think last but not least, I want to talk about Matic, which I also have a cushion for. Now, this is an interesting one. Basically, it's faced a lot of issues in the past around congestion and gas fee spikes due to certain play-to-earn games, but the network has also become a part of history recently, with DraftKings agreeing to run one of just 100 or so nodes to become the first major publicly traded firm to take part in network governance. And let's also not forget the $450 million funding round that closed in February and was led by Sequoia and also featured Galaxy Digital, who seem to basically fund everything these days. And the aim there being to basically develop further scalability and expansion into the Web3 space. So again, with Matic, watch this space. Right, so those are my thoughts on just some of the bags that I'm holding at the moment. And to be honest with you, I'm not planning on adding much at the moment either. There's too much volatility out there. There's a ton of uncertainty flying around, what with everything that's going on. And really, I'm broadly pretty happy with what I'm holding. But if anything does come up on my radar, you good people, yes, you will be the first to know. Yay!